Hi, I'm Suzanne from Caregiver Haven. So today we're diving into a topic that most caregivers experience, but almost no one wants to talk about. It's shame, guilt, and self doubt. And if you've ever asked yourself, am I doing enough? Or why do I feel so resentful when I'm supposed to feel loving? Then this webinar is for you. You're not a bad caregiver. You're a human in an incredibly hard role. I've worked in medicine for 25 years and walked alongside thousands of caregivers, and I promise you are not alone in this. Let's talk about the things that are hard to admit, but necessary if we're ever going to heal. Shame loses its power when it's spoken out loud, and I'm going to show you how this works. You don't need to be perfect to be a great caregiver. You just need the truth and a little support. So let's dig in. We're going to look at why shame and self-doubt show up even when you're doing everything right. We're going to talk about the emotional effects and the caregiving relationships that no longer work. We're going to talk about the invisible toll of being the strong one all the time and the tools to challenge your inner critic and how to reframe your thinking. And then the small, powerful mindset shifts that are going to occur when you start practicing all of this. And we'll focus on one lesson at a time because you don't have to do it all today. So let's name what we're all afraid of. We're all afraid to say, you can love someone deeply and still feel resentful, frustrated, or numb. These are two different feelings. It doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean anything's wrong with you. It means that you're human. When I worked with a woman named Carla, she was caring for her father who had never been kind to her. And she told me, I feel nothing and I hate myself for it. That shame was eating her alive. Once she gave herself permission to admit that, she could finally start to heal. So you're not heartless, you're hurting. And you're allowed to feel both grief and love at the same time. Two conflicting emotions can be true at once, and both of them are very valid. And if you're the one everyone counts on, you may never feel safe falling apart. Many of us say, if I fall apart, who's left to hold things together? That's a heavy, lonely burden. And over time, that silence turns into self criticism. You may even start believing that you're not allowed to feel overwhelmed. But here's the truth: being strong doesn't mean being silent, it means knowing when to ask for help, speak your limits, and prioritize your own emotional health. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. Your humanity is not a flaw. Strength means allowing yourself to fall apart when you need to. And the reason is because you're going to build yourself back up, a better and stronger than you were before. So it's okay to give permission to yourself to fall apart. Here's the cycle. You snap, then you feel guilty, you overcompensate, and then you feel resentful. And the loop starts again. And we call this the caregiver guilt spiral. And it's driven by impossible expectations and emotional exhaustion. One caregiver told me, after I yelled at my mom, I made her favorite dessert and stayed up all night watching her breathing. I hated myself. But moms and dads, husbands and wives, those we care for, no matter what we say to them, they're still going to love us. They still know we're human, and they can't stop loving us. No matter how much we think it's hurt, they're still going to love us. This loop isn't fixed by doing more, it's softened by doing differently. Interrupting the guilt spiral means noticing your triggers, naming your emotions, and refusing to punish yourself for being human. You write your guilt loop down. Seeing it helps you stop it. What are your triggers? So let's clear this up. Guilt is when you feel bad about something you did. Shame is when you feel bad about who you are. Caregiver shame sounds like, I'm not doing enough. I don't even want to be around them today. I'm failing. It doesn't matter that you've given up your job, sleep, or social life. Shame whispers that it's still not enough. But this isn't the truth. Shame will always grow in isolation. When we expose it to light, it shrinks. You're not failing, you're running on empty and still showing up. That is not shameful. That's heroic. And you wouldn't say to a friend what you say to yourself. So take the time to think about the things that you self talk and ask yourself if that's something you would say to a friend. One of the most painful parts of caregiving is when the relationship you're in starts to feel one sided. You miss them. They're no longer sitting across from you at the dinner table in a conversation. You might be caring for someone who once loved you very well, or maybe they've always been difficult. Either way, the dynamic has changed. You give, they take, and there's no return. That can make you feel disposable, invincible, and even bitter. These feelings are valid. One woman told me, I feel like a ghost in my own house. That loss of reciprocity can crush your spirit if it's not acknowledged. You matter, even when you're the only one doing the giving. And the secret here is to say it out loud. This one feels one sided, and that's painful. You have a right to put a name on it, you have a right to speak it. And one of the things you can do here is, as you know, this is no longer the relationship that you had, it's a relationship that was. What you want to do is start finding relationships that work now. Find other relationships that nourish you, other relationships that can say back to you as you would say or should say to yourself as a friend, that builds you up, that makes you feel human again, that doesn't put that self doubt and that shame in you anymore. Find those relationships. But what if your parent wasn't kind to you? And what if your spouse became emotionally distant long before they got sick? This I see all the time. Caregivers taking care of parents or spouses that they never had a good relationship with in the first place. Society says we should honor our parents or stand by our spouse. But what if that bond was already frayed or never strong to begin with? Many caregivers carry a second hidden burden, pretending they feel something they don't. It's okay to feel emotionally complicated. You could still show up for someone and grieve the relationship you never had. This doesn't make you cold or unloving, it makes you honest. And that honesty might be your first step forward. Again, you can have two conflicting relationships within your own self, and they can both be truthful. You can show up, you can be a good caregiver. You can make sure they're safe. You can do everything right. And you could feel bitter, neglected, and resentful. Two different emotions. It's okay to grieve the relationship you wish you had had. And do you remember when you who you were before all of this? Before the appointments or before the 2 o'clock in the morning medication and the alarms and the emotional load? Do you remember going out with friends? Many caregivers lose sight of their former selves and what you used to be, the person with hobbies and dreams and relationships, an identity that wasn't tied to someone else's needs. And losing that self doesn't happen overnight, it slips quietly away. And reconnecting with that version of you, even just in small moments, isn't selfish, it's necessary. Write down the three things you love doing before caregiving. Write down three people you loved seeing before caregiving. What's one thing you can bring back this week, even if it's a 15-minute phone call to a dear friend you haven't talked to in ages? Again, friendships mean that those people are going to tell you things to build you up, and you're going to be able to say out loud what you're truly feeling with no judgment. They understand. And just you getting it out in the open means that it no longer holds the power over you. Inside every caregiver, inside all of us, there's a battle going on. The inner critic says, you should have handled that better. You snapped again. You're not doing enough. But there's also an inner caregiver, the voice of compassion, and it says, you're exhausted. You did your best. That moment doesn't define you. And we all have both voices. The trick is choosing which one gets the microphone. You can start by noticing which voice is speaking. Then try this. Respond to yourself like you would a dear friend. It's going to feel awkward at first, but it's a muscle worth strengthening. One of the best ways to do this is stand in front of the mirror. And when a thought pops in your mind of shame, guilt, self doubt, bitterness, resentful, say, whoa, where did that come from? That's not being very nice. That's not being a good friend. I'm doing the best I can. I am who I am. I'm exhausted right now. And that's why I snapped. And I forgive myself. There are things like that you can say to yourself, and it's awkward to say it in front of a mirror, I promise you. But when you talk back to yourself like that and you're going, what's up with that? Where did I come up with that thought? And who am I to say that thought to myself? You'll realize that once you get it out in the open and you say these things out loud, they really truly lose their power. And you're shocked at how much you feel better when you self talk and say things that are nicer to you. So name your inner critic. It's easier to challenge the judge than to challenge yourself. Identify that person and say, hey, wait a minute, hold up. I'm doing the best I can. There's a kind of grief many caregivers don't recognize right away. It's called ambiguous grief, and it is mourning the person who's still alive but no longer who they used to be. This is the lost relationship we used to have. And you may miss the sharp witted parent who now repeats the same stories, or the spouse who once laughed with you and shared moments with you and is now silent and just sits in the recliner. This is real grief. And many of us do not realize that when minute we start caregiving, whether it's a plate of food we take over once a week, whether it's help them fill their tank with gas, or whether it's taking them to the doctor, the minute we do something for our loved one, we begin the grieving process. We don't recognize it, but it's there. And I don't know how many months, how many days, weeks, or years you've been caregiving, but I will tell you your grief started when you first started helping this person out. And it's real grief, and it's still there. And there's also grief for yourself, the freedom you lost and the future you imagined. You're not being dramatic. You're grieving layer upon layer of loss, and you're doing it while making lunch and scheduling doctor visits. It is actually grief in motion. You're looking at pictures you used to have of each other, the places you used to go, the memories you built together, and all the years, and where did they go? And as you view these things and you remember these things, they trigger the emotion of loss and grief that you now have. And you can say out loud, it's perfectly acceptable to say, I miss what we used to have. Grief needs a name before it can soften. Speak it out. Say you're grieving. Understand the grief. Understand the stages of loss. And be aware of what triggers these certain days, weeks of the year. And then caregivers are master storytellers, but not always in a good way. We whisper lies to ourselves like, well, if I was stronger, I wouldn't feel this way. Or I'm the only one who gets this angry. Other caregivers seem to handle it better. But here's the truth, these lies are shame in disguise, and they only grow stronger when we keep them secret. Look in that mirror and say, you know what? I'm doing the best I can. I'm human, and that's enough. We are. Sometimes we want to be perfect at things. We just can't be. All we can be is human, and that's enough. So start noticing your internal narrative. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it helpful? And you're not weak. This is common with everybody. We all have these two people. You're human, and you don't have to keep believing thoughts that destroy your peace. So ask yourself again, would I say this to someone I love? If my friend and I were sitting down and having a conversation and they were telling me how they truly feel about caregiving, what would I say to them? The self talk, the back talk is okay and healthy. So let's talk about emotional isolation. Even when you're surrounded by people, you can feel invisible in your own pain. And isolation makes your worries louder. Your confidence is going to go smaller. It's when you start thinking, nobody gets what I'm going through. I must be doing this wrong. Or you'll say something like, oh, it's just me. But it's not just you. I promise. When caregivers stay isolated, shame is going to fester. But the moment you share your story, and this is why getting out and getting back to the friends you had, getting back to seeing people, and even if you have no friends right now, and you have to go out and you have to start a hobby or you have to have a class. Just going to a class, it doesn't mean you need to be friends with everybody in the class, and it doesn't mean you need to be the social butterfly, but you're interacting with others of the same interest in the class, and you're realizing, you know what? They're feeding me good stuff, and that's what you need. So share your story with others, even a sliver of it with someone safe. There are always caregiving classes out there and you'll learn so much, but you'll feel seen. And then all of a sudden, the emotions that once felt overwhelming become manageable. It's amazing. Isolation is not where you want to go. You don't want to get out of the house. You don't have time. There's nobody to help you. You find somebody for an hour, you go out and you visit a friend, or you take class somewhere, or you go for a walk in a walking club. You don't have to become best friends with anyone, but you do something like this and you will feel so much better in that self-talk. That good healthy self-talk will come on stronger and stronger. So find someone who gets it. Not 10 people, you only need one person to start. And when your emotions have nowhere to go, what happens? They turn inward. And you might snap at your kids, snap at your spouse, apologize constantly, or even cry when the cereal spills. We've all been there. We feel numb when we should feel something. These aren't personality flaws, these are symptoms of your overwhelmment. Your nervous system is waving that white flag. Caregivers often internalize everything. They don't have time or space to process. But if you don't let the feelings out safely, they'll come out sideways. And I'll give you a perfect example of this. Many times a spouse will say to their spouse, "Honey, what's wrong?" And the minute they say that, the other person snaps, "Nothing." And you know something's wrong. The way you snapped says something wrong, and the spouse doesn't know what to do. It's going to that spouse and saying, there's a lot wrong right now, and I need one of two things from you. I either need you to just listen and let me just say it out loud, or I need you to listen and help me fix it. So that's one of the things. Your spouse doesn't know which one you want. Some days you want them to just listen, other days you want them to help you fix it. And you won't know that until you get in that situation. But in all fairness to another person, tell them what you want. Do you want them to just listen so you can hear yourself say what you're saying? Or do you want them to help you with it and find the resources that you need? So you're not crazy. You're just carrying too much right now. So pause and ask yourself, what emotion is underneath this reaction? Name it. Put a name on it, and that's your clue that you have to do something and get it out. Don't internalize it. So let's shift the lens. You're not failing. You're navigating the most emotional complex role there is. And instead of saying, I snapped again today, try saying, I caught myself in a hard moment and I'm working on it. And instead of saying, I can't do this, say out loud, this is hard and I'm doing it anyway. Caregiving isn't about perfection, it's about persistence, compassion, and course correction. And trust me, every day is a course correction. Just as you think you got mom and dad or mom settled into her new room and she's perfect, she can't get off the toilet. Just as you think you got dad downstairs and the room is going to work perfectly and everybody's safe, he trips over a wire. It's course correction over and over again. Just as they tell you they love scrambled eggs and you put them in front of them, they tell you they hate scrambled eggs. They've been eating scrambled eggs for 3 weeks and now all of a sudden they hate scrambled eggs. It's course correction, and it's constant. And so where we lose our triggers is when they tell us something maybe 30 times and we lose and we snap on our 31st time. So now you can handle it 30 times. The 31st time you're going to snap. And so the next time they tell you 31 times, you go, wait, that's the 31st time they've told me that. And normally I would snap, but I'm not going to snap now. Those are the kind of things you want to be aware of. You want to be aware of where your triggers are. How many times does something have to happen before you snap and you lose it? And every time you choose to speak kindly to yourself, you're going to rewrite that story. And every story you rewrite becomes stronger and kinder and a better foundation for tomorrow. It's amazing how when we start speaking it out loud, we actually put a name to it. It gets out of our system. And then we replace it with I'm learning, I'm correcting, I'm not looking for perfection, I'm looking for ways not to be triggered. And the next day, you do a better job and a better job and a better job. So maybe you start your day with one sentence. Today, I will treat myself like someone I'm responsible for caring for. That's a true statement. You're caring for yourself. So let's be honest. Some days you want to walk out the door and never come back. And that doesn't mean you're cruel, and it doesn't mean you're mean, and it doesn't mean you're crazy. It just means you're human and you're exhausted. And you might think, I can't do this anymore. And then you do it again and again and again. It's the inner tug of war. It's resentment on one side, responsibility on the other. It's brutal. It is brutal. I have seen so many caregivers get to this point. The shame isn't in wanting to quit. The danger is in never speaking those thoughts out loud. Say it. Say it in a safe place. Say it in front of the mirror. Make yourself say it so you can hear it and you can say the self-talk. Whoa, wait a minute. Be a friend to yourself. What would you say to your own friends? And then once you get it out, I don't want to do this anymore. Let it breathe. Just hold up a moment, let it get out there, and then ask, what do I need to do right now to stay afloat? You're allowed to want relief. You deserve relief. So make it kind of a tap out plan where you can get covered for 2 hours when you hit your breaking point. Get out, see somebody, do something, and self talk. So let's talk about an antidote to shame, self compassion. It's not fluff, it's just skill. It's practicing this day in and day out. And it's one thing you can learn. It's not that hard to self talk. And you'd be amazed at the things you're thinking to yourself. When you hear yourself say them, you will be aghast at what they are. And here are 3 ways to start. You can feel ashamed, and you say something like, "This is a hard moment. Other caregivers feel this way too." Or, "What would I say to a friend in this situation?" Say that to yourself instead. Or use a shame inventory. You I've included this tool for you, this reset tool, and in it names you. You're going to name your triggers so they don't own you. Self-compassion is not going to erase the hard days, but it's just going to make them less brutal. There's a lot of questions in here I want you to think about. I want you to write them down. Get them down on paper. This is why journaling is so important, but even more so is to speak them. Get that mirror, look yourself in the mirror, name that person in the mirror, and speak back to that person when they speak bad things to you. Talk back to them and say, "Hold up, that's not okay." It'll make it less brutal for you and bring back your voice into the caregiving equation. And once you start bringing back your voice, amazing things are going to start to happen. Look through this workbook, this guide, and you'll see what I mean. And if you hear nothing else today, hear this: you are not alone. Thousands of caregivers are living with your story. It's very true to them. The frustration, the shame, the guilt, the silence, and it wins over and over again. Even though you are doing the best you can do, nobody claps for you. And you deserve connection, even when you're not at your best. And you deserve rest, even when there's more to do. And most of all, you deserve to speak your truth without fear of judgment. What part of today made you feel seen? Write it down. That's your new touchstone. And if you need support beyond this webinar, we're here for you, especially the membership with the tools that help just pull us through day after day and month after month. You don't do this in silence. Speak up, speak out, speak back to yourself. So let's review what we did explore. You're not a bad caregiver, even if you feel resentment, shame, or emptiness. Remember, we all have different emotions going on at the same time for the one person. We love them and yet we resent them. Shame and guilt grow in silence, but they lose their power when they're named and they're spoken out loud. One-sided relationships and emotional isolation are real and they hurt. Accept that. And take those one-sided relationships, put them in a box, say what we had at one time, we don't anymore. I'm moving on to new relationships that feed healthy things in me, that feed healthy relationships in me. You can challenge your inner critic and rebuild a supportive voice. You absolutely can. When you stand in front of that mirror, as awkward as it is, and you hear yourself say these things to that person in that mirror, you'll be shocked and it will give you strength to say, "Hold up, I wouldn't talk to my enemy like that. What am I talking to me like that for?" And then self-compassion. It's a skill that we learn, and your first lifeline out of shame, that you're strong, not because you never break down, but because you always get back up. And now you can do it with a little less shame and a little more grace. So when you start feeling down again, pick up this webinar, pick up the workbook, and just keep reusing it over and over and over again. Just keep practicing these things. You may go a week or two and forget about this, and then you go, "Wait a minute, where's that voice coming from again? And where's that webinar? I need to hear it all over again." All of us do this. We do it constantly. We're not perfect. We're human. We have to learn, and then we have to relearn and relearn until it almost becomes second nature to us. And you can do it too. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'll be glad to check my email. And in the meantime, take care and my very best to you.